Welcome to the Human Dignity by Design podcast, where we explore tech law in context and discuss how law and technology can and should be designed to respect human dignity. My name is Jan Trzaskowski, and I'm here to share research, thoughts, and ideas on tech law and policy, including the role of fundamental human rights as guiding principles in business and beyond. The first 12 episodes of this podcast are an audiobook version of my 2021 book, Your Privacy is Important to Us, which explores how to restore human dignity in data-driven marketing that relies on artificial intelligence. In this episode, you will hear the 7th chapter of Your Privacy is Important to Us, which is about persuasive technology, including issues pertaining to choice architecture, friction, and prompts. Thank you for listening. Chapter 7: Persuasive Technology. As discussed in the previous chapter, insights into human decision-making can be used by traders to influence behavior. As much of society's communication takes place online, we will take a look at how influence is carried out online. 3 important characteristics of digital technology are that activities can be automated, scaled, and personalized easily. In addition, technology allows for real-time feedback. We don't make choices in a vacuum. Our physical environment is shaped by nature and culture, as discussed in Chapter 3. Our behavior and movement are constrained by laws of physics and public infrastructure, the physical architecture. In commercial contexts, much of our behavior and many of our experiences are carefully designed and curated by businesses, as discussed in the previous chapter. For instance, milk is usually shelved in the very back of a grocery store, so as to guide people through the entire store. In virtual realities, such as cyberspace, we are also subject to constraints stemming from infrastructure, the digital architecture, that define our abilities and shape our experiences. Digital technology can work in tandem with our imaginative capabilities to create experiences that defy real-world physics. Just think about social media and other computer games with or without real co-players, teammates as well as opponents. It is more cumbersome to redesign the physical architecture than the architecture of virtual realities, where a few clicks are sufficient to establish connections, create fora, and delete persons. As an example, Mark Zuckerberg announced on 11 January 2018 a possibly well-intentioned change in Facebook's algorithm that turned out to reward outrage and polarization. One of our big focus areas for 2018 is making sure the time we are all spent on Facebook is time well spent. We built Facebook to help people stay connected and bring us closer together with the people that matter to us. That's why we always put friends and family at the core of the experience. Research shows that strengthening our relationship improves our well-being and happiness. We feel a responsibility to make sure our services aren't just fun to use, but also good for people's well-being. So we studied this trend carefully by looking at the academic research and doing our own research with leading experts at universities. Based on this, we are making a major change to how we build Facebook. I'm changing the goal I give our product teams from focusing on helping you find relevant content to helping you have more meaningful social interactions. Virtual reality is real, but it's not the real reality. Activities and experiences in virtual realities impact real reality, with which it can easily be confused because of its pervasiveness and human intersubjectivity. As Eric K. Clemens explains, decisions to advertise on Google may be driven more by fear of disappearing than the desire to paid exposure. In our context, social media have similar power to make natural as well as legal persons disappear if they do not deliver the engagement or payment required by the algorithms for exposure. Of course, the legal or natural person will only disappear from the virtual reality. But if important connections and activities of the persons are not sufficiently rooted in the physical world, existence there is also threatened, as we discuss in Chapter 10. Augmented reality is a hybrid in which elements of virtual reality are used to add to or mask parts of real reality. An illustrative example is the mobile game Pokemon Go, which allows the user to interact with virtual creatures, Pokemon or pocket monsters, which appear in the user's real reality environment identified by GPS signals. As catching Pokemons requires you to be at a particular geographic location, it has been used to drive real visitors to actual McDonald's restaurants and other sponsors. Given our widespread usage of and trust in computers, including smartphones, virtual realities and augmented realities can be created that may be difficult to distinguish from real reality. Given the possibilities of influencing, persuading as well as manipulating, it is not difficult to imagine a baited reality in the guise of real virtuality, where the real reality decreases in force or intensity. 1. Distinct advantages. The design of human-computer interaction plays a significant role in how consumers are influenced in the context of data-driven business models. As Melvin Kranzberg pronounced in his first law of technology, technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. Or as Neil Postman puts it, what we need to know about computers, television, and other important technologies is not how to use them, but how they use us. Computers have 6 distinct advantages over traditional media and human persuaders, as articulated by B.J. Fogg in the early 2000s. In particular, computers can be more persistent than human beings, offer greater anonymity, manage huge volumes of data, use many modalities to influence, scale easily, go where humans cannot go or may not be welcome. Additionally, computers have good memory as well as the ability to evoke feelings through social cues without getting tired or requiring reciprocity. With digital technology, Cialdini's principles of persuasion, introduced in the previous chapter, can be automated, scaled, and personalized and applied in real time. 1.1. Friction. Persuasive technology can be distilled into a matter of dispensing friction, which relies on what Daniel Kahneman has identified as the preference for cognitive ease. By increasing or reducing friction, the user can be nudged in a desired direction by designing a path of least resistance. The importance of friction in the design of online experiences is hard to overestimate, as, for instance, in the context of cookie consent pop-ups, as we discuss in Chapter 8. Reading, thinking, clicking, scrolling, writing, paying, all constitute friction. To appreciate the power of friction, it may be helpful to perceive it as obstacles to instant gratification. Consider, for instance, liking and sharing content on Facebook, searching the World Wide Web through Google, establishing connections on LinkedIn, swiping for dates on Tinder, and shopping at Amazon.com. It is very easy and convenient. The same mechanisms apply to free cake at an open house and the use of credit cards where you don't have to suffer the experience of departing with money. Further friction was removed from payment with the introduction of one-click buying and contactless payment. By increasing or reducing friction to design a path of least resistance, the user can be nudged in a desired direction. Most consumers remain unaware of how the user experience is designed for the individual. Both Amazon's recommendations and Google's sponsored links are designed to guide consumers to specific purchases by reducing the effort of friction needed to select these over all others. 1.2. Motivation, ability, and prompts. Generally speaking, behavior is affected by motivation, ability, and prompts. A nostalgic view of marketing may assume that creating motivation is key, whereas today the main focus, especially in digital marketing, is to increase ability by removing friction. It's free, click here. And to use prompts, act now, click here. As expressed by B.J. Fogg, prompts are the invisible drivers of our lives. No behavior happens without a prompt. and the prompts coming from digital technology are harder to manage than those from junk mail. Other than getting off the grid, we may never find a perfect way to stop unwanted prompts from companies with business models that depend on us to click, read, watch, rate, share, or react. This is a difficult problem that pits our human frailties against brilliant designers and powerful computer algorithms. 2. Personalization. As discussed in Chapter 2, an intrinsic part of data-driven marketing is the ability to personalize marketing activities, often by means of targeted advertising. As expressed by B.J. Fogg, information provided by computing technology will be more persuasive if it is tailored to the individual's needs, interest, personality, usage, context, or other factors relevant to the individual. In many situations, the data actively disclosed by the user is only the tip of the iceberg of personal data that are used for mediating content. Much additional information can be inferred both from voluntary revealed data, for instance, search queries and likes on social media, and from behavior, sites visited, time spent, clicks, typing speed, mouse hovering. Information may also be purchased from aggregators or used by third parties in connection with advertising on, for instance, social media and web search engines. Traders may obtain much data from surveillance of users' behavior, data on not only how they behave, but also how they react to particular influence. These observations can reveal predictable patterns of behavior that can be reverse engineered to give the trader tremendous and unearned leverage in eliciting our compliance. Again, automated, scaled, and individualized in real time. Alex Pentland predicted in 2014 that in just a few short years, we are likely to have incredibly rich data available about the behavior of virtually all of humanity on a continuous basis. The data mostly already exists in cell phone networks, credit card databases, and elsewhere, but currently only technical gurus have access to it. The trader does not necessarily need to know the identity of the particular user, but may, for instance, use contextual information such as time, place, and behavior. For instance, age, in probabilistic terms, may be inferred from media use, including, for instance, music taste, and demographic information may be utilized in connection with geographic information about the user. The trader may be able to deduce age, emotions, etc. of individual users by analyzing, for instance, images, search queries, and social media users. This can be used for profiling, which may include a persuasion profile. We know from behavioral sciences that mood, for instance, significantly affects purchase decisions, and that decision fatigue leaves us vulnerable to traders who know how to time their sales. As expressed by Douglas Rushkoff, psychographic targeting is more effective than demographic targeting because it reaches for an individual customer more directly, like a fly fisherman who sets bait and jiggles his rod in a prescribed pattern for a particular kind of fish. When personalization is being used, the user will only experience the information that has been selected for him. The choice architecture, which is invisible to the user, creates something akin to a shop that is custom built for each visitor and each visit. This makes it virtually impossible to fully comprehend the environment and identify the means of persuasion, including what information the user is being deprived of. In the above-mentioned grocery store with diary shelves at the very back, the consumer at least has some sense of orientation and ability to navigate. As the algorithms in play are black boxes, we rarely learn about the tribes we belong to and why we belong there. This algorithmic mediation of information is, for instance, used to make suggestions that are valuable to the user, but may also be applied in ways that are more profitable for the trader than the user. Even though we avail ourselves of receiving information through technology, we do not necessarily use technology with the aim of being persuaded or even manipulated. It is, for instance, interesting how we still seem to believe that we, that is ourselves, are finding information on the internet rather than being guided to it. Personalization is closely linked to manipulation and discrimination, as we pursue in Chapter 8 and Chapter 10, respectively. 2.1. The accuracy principle. Predicting behavior, including by establishing a persuasion profile, is to be understood in probabilistic terms. People who are like you tend to behave in this way. One of the defining characteristics of big data analysis is that they rely on probabilities and as such are imprecise. The principle of accuracy in the GDPR may be important as it requires personal data to be accurate and, where necessary, kept up to date. The data controller must take every reasonable step to erase or rectify inaccurate personal data. In that vein, consideration must be given to the purpose for which the data are processed. The extent to which the use of probabilistic data is in conformity with the accuracy principle is not settled in case law. When the purpose is personalization and/or marketing, it could be argued that, having regard to the purpose, some flexibility with regard to precision is legitimate. However, from a fundamental rights perspective, it could equally be argued that traders should not rely on probabilities when it comes to determining particular traits in human beings. The latter interpretation could be corroborated by the principle of data protection by design found in Article 25.1 of the GDPR. Even if this basic principle cannot constitute an independent right in this context, the principle may exert an influence on the interpretation of other GDPR provisions, including those concerning accuracy and transparency. In the context of profiling, Recital 71 of the GDPR provides that the trader should implement technical and organizational measures appropriate to ensure, in particular, that factors which result in inaccuracies in personal data are corrected and the risk of errors is minimized. Secure personal data in a manner that takes account of the potential risks involved for the interest and rights of the data subject, and that prevents, for instance, discriminatory effects on natural persons on the basis of racial or ethnic origin, political opinion, religion or beliefs, trade union memberships, genetic or health status, or sexual orientation, or that results in measures having such an effect. 3. Emotions online. As identified by B.J. Fogg, computers may use many modalities to influence, including the ability to evoke feelings through social cues, notably without getting tired or requiring reciprocity, as Cialdini has identified as a power tool for traders. Reciprocity may be perceived as friction in real reality relationships. Computers, on the other hand, will listen, observe, and care without expecting the same from you. In addition to evoking emotions, computers may also detect emotions by means of proxies such as word usage in social media postings or by analyzing facial expressions in pictures. For the purposes of digital marketing, probabilistic data will be sufficient to, for instance, identify people who are likely to be in a depressed state or mood in order to advertise a product with a particular promise of instant gratification. Some traders have access to real-time biometric data in the context of smart health devices, including fitness trackers. More sophisticated biometric data is likely to come with the development of brain-machine interfaces, as expressed by Neuralink. Every day we're building better tools for communicating with the brain. With the right team, the applications for this technology are limitless. In a much debated Facebook experiment on emotional contagion, it was found that emotions can be manipulated in social media, allowing for massive scale contagion via social networks. The experiments took place in the period 11 to 18 January 2012 and was published in 2014. In the expression of significance, it is stated that we show via a massive experiment on Facebook that emotional states can be transferred to others via emotional contagion, leading people to experience the same emotions without their awareness. We provide experimental evidence that emotional contagion occurs without direct interaction between people, and in the complete absence of nonverbal cues. The study demonstrated how the exposure to emotional expressions in newsfeed affected posting behaviors. It is noted that effect sizes from the manipulations are small, but that due to the scale of networks and interactions, they may have large aggregated consequences. Part of the summary reads: when positive expressions were reduced, people produced fewer positive posts and more negative posts. When negative expressions were reduced, the opposite pattern occurred. These results indicate that emotions expressed by others on Facebook influence our own emotions, constituting experimental evidence for massive-scale contagions via social networks. This work also suggests that in contrast to prevailing assumptions, in-person interactions and nonverbal cues are not strictly necessary for emotional contagion, and that the observation of others' positive experiences constitutes a positive experience for people. The study also revealed a withdrawal effect. People who were exposed to fewer emotional posts in their newsfeed were less expressive overall on the following days, addressing the question about how emotional expression affects social engagement online. As providers of social media services are expected, probably more by investors than regulators and users, to maximize profits, increased engagement is a likely key performance indicator. In addition, it is found that negative emotions create more engagement than positive emotions. It is clear that virtual and augmented realities can be designed to detect proxies for emotions, as well as creating, amplifying, and muffling emotions in real realities. These emotions can be used as a driver of engagement, habits, and addictive behavior. Habits consist of prompts, routines, and rewards, and a 4-step hooked model consisting of trigger, action, variable reward, and investment can be used to build habit-forming products. Similarly, retailers in real reality also explore ways of getting shoppers to shop longer. Thus, profit-maximizing algorithms are likely to have real reality consequences. For the user, it makes little difference whether qualitative insights are programmed into their virtual realities or automated through artificial intelligence that is optimizing for instance, engagement as a proxy for profits. James Williams argues that much, if not most, of the advertising research that occurs behind the closed doors of companies could be described as secret mood manipulation experiments. This, of course, raises questions as to legitimate purpose, data minimization, accuracy, and legitimate basis for processing of personal data, as well as the privacy implications of the surveillance, which is dealt with in Chapter 8 and Chapter 10, respectively. 3.1. Research ethics. Traders have always had an interest in knowledge about their customers' goals, values, and preferences. With the scalability of technology and precision from personal data, data-driven business models may facilitate the creation and utilization of an unprecedented quality of such insights, and, notably, also insights about how audiences and individuals are most effectively influenced to further the trader's aim. As demonstrated in the above-mentioned 2012 Facebook experiment, obtaining such knowledge may involve fiddling with users' emotions. If a similar experiment were to be carried out by an academic researcher, it would have to follow ethical protocols. Traders may not feel compelled to follow similar ethical standards. Following negative press coverage, an editorial expression of concern was issued by the publisher of the Facebook study. Questions have been raised about the principles of informed consent and opportunity to opt out in connection with the research in this paper. The authors noted in their paper that the work was consistent with Facebook's data use policy, to which all users agree prior to creating an account on Facebook, constituting informed consent for this research. When the authors prepared their paper for publication in PNAS, they stated that because this experiment was conducted by Facebook Incorporated for internal purposes, the Cornell University Institutional Review Board determined that the project did not fall under Cornell's Human Research Protection Program. This statement has since been confirmed by Cornell University. Obtaining informed consent and allowing participants to opt out are best practices in most instances under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services policy for the protection of human research subjects, known as the Common Rule. Adherence to the Common Rule is PNAS policy, but as a private company, Facebook was under no obligation to conform to the provisions of the Common Rule when it collected the data used by the authors, and the Common Rule does not preclude the use of this data. Based on the information provided by the authors, PNAS editors deemed it appropriate to publish the paper. It is nevertheless a matter of concern that the collection of the data by Facebook may have involved practices that were not fully consistent with the principles of obtaining informed consent and allowing participants to opt out. There is no reason to believe that Facebook has ceased its internal research programs because of negative press coverage. On the contrary, Frances Haugen's revelations, disseminated, for instance, through Wall Street Journal's Facebook files, include internal research revealing that the Instagram app owned by Facebook, now Meta, makes body image issues worse for teenage girls. The possibility of doing such research corroborates the asymmetrical power relationship between traders and consumers, as we discuss in Chapter 9. Similar research can be carried out by all traders with computers and large quantities of data. The scope may be narrower, but the impact may have similar significant effects on individual users. Thank you for joining the Human Dignity by Design podcast, where we explore tech law in context. In the next episode, you can listen to the 8th chapter of Your Privacy is Important to Us, which is about manipulation, including issues pertaining to coercion, deception, subliminal marketing, and paternalism. Music for this podcast is composed and performed by Thomas Rohl. My name is Jan Trzaskowski.